Mike Gill, State of Corruption. But just before I get into the topic of prison guards and drugs, I would like you to know, and I'd like Mr. Trump to know, I've got a few packages that I have to deliver to Mr. Trump. They've been following me everywhere. Work, home, business. Yesterday, I'd like to share a story for you. After work, I went to a China buffet that was across the street. I took one of my sons, who were both sitting in a booth. He's looking over my shoulder, only to see a guy with a phone and a camera hiding in the bush right behind me. I turn around and the asshole falls onto the street. Right. All right. Now I want to talk to you about, I don't know how many of you have read, 4 overdoses this weekend. 1 in a jail and 1 in a halfway house. Wow. 4. All in the same day. In fact, if you look through all the papers, which I did, which is about 15, NH1, Union Leader, right? MUR. You know, they've all said the same thing. 4 overdoses, 1 fatal, postponed prison visits. Prison visits. The suggestion is visitors are bringing the drugs in. Look. Prison visits. No more prison visits. Inmate dies, overdose. Officials investigate. Prison visits. You know what I didn't see? The real culprits. Those of you remember, I went to jail for 10 days for contempt. I then immediately did a video, and you can hear it at the end, with a gentleman who just got beaten and raped. And he explains how the guards are selling drugs in the prisons. They meet people through glass. Visitation screens. It's the guards, you pinheads. How about this? Earlier this year, we only had a prison chef at Belmont get caught with $67,000 of heroin going into the prison. Who do you think he was cooking it up for? Right? Law enforcement's corrupt. They're not arresting these people. These are not the real drug dealers. Half of these kids had drug issues, went to jail based on hospitals and treatments and opiates for injuries as young people. My point being is, it's the guards, you pinheads, just like it's the cops not doing anything, and it's these newspapers and media. How do you get 15 stories to have the word visitation and the loss thereof in every one of them? It's because they are covering for the cops, just like they cover for the dirty politicians. Right. I'm going to put this, and this isn't the first thing that's happened. We had a young man who was homeless. One day in Spring Valley Street Jail. He died of an overdose. How did he get drugs in there? He was under lock and key all day and didn't come out. Cops. And one last, I'm going to attach the interview you hear from the prisoner who was released, and he was actually the cell next to mine. So you hear about the drugs and the officers and the guards that are selling them. And last thing, just want you to know, we were the DEA's #1. Their words, New Hampshire, ground zero. Well, it turns out cocaine's on its way back. Big article, right? This is the Washington Journal. And it says cocaine use ranges from less than 2% of residents ages 8 to 25 in Mississippi to more than 1 in 10 in New Hampshire. Guess what, New Hampshire? We're #1 again. Not just in heroin, cocaine too. It turns out #2, we blew them away. Yeah, we're a lot worse. We're 2.5 times worse than Mississippi. Mike Gill, State of Corruption. Please watch this video and listen to this young man. Thank you. Mike Gill, State of Corruption. I have a friend here that I met in the jail when I went to the Rockingham. On contempt of court, where the judge refused my evidence that they only threatened to murder my children. Just so we're up to date, Judge Francois. Well, this is my friend, Jay. And Jay's a young man that I met in jail. I met a few young people in jail. The ones that hadn't lost their souls. Not the predators, not the child molesters. Young people who've got in trouble with heroin. Now, Jay, we had talked. My understanding is how it started your heroin issue, was that you were 16 years old and you got in a car accident. You lacerate your liver, you said.
Yeah.
And they gave you
Oxycodone.
And you stayed on that for how long?
About a year afterwards, legally prescribed.
Right. But the problem is you got addicted to them.
Right.
You were on them for what, a year and a half? So
yeah.
What you were saying? See, how many times do we hear this? This is just a young man that got in an accident, right? And how many times you hear these hospitals that we fight with? Catholic Memorial, Dartmouth. What do you think they're protecting? Just those stories. So now, it's a matter of affordability, and you're addicted to the opiate.
Yep.
And you start on heroin because of why?
The cheapness and the availability of it.
It's that easy to find.
Yeah.
If it's that easy to find, why is it so hard for these police officers to catch, do you think?
I think they only catch it when they have to meet certain criteria.
Quotas. You
right.
think like they're doing something?
But I think they kind of make more money when they don't find it.
Right. Well, that's my belief, too.
Yeah.
And it's not hard for us to go there with the cops, which I have gone there. But let's go on what happens in prison. All right? So, in other words, Jay, at this point, the thing with the heroin, you got in trouble for mostly petty theft.
Right.
And would you say a lot of the young people that are in there with heroin addictions and so forth are there for petty theft?
That's basically all it is, yeah. Just stealing to get high.
So if we eliminate the heroin situation that we feed our children, we also eliminate this corruption and crime that's going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you've got to pay for it somewhere. That's what's happening in Manchester, New Hampshire. Every month, we had 80 overdoses, 10 deaths just last month in one city.
That's crazy.
All right, so now what I noticed when I was in jail was that there is drugs in jail. Would you say the drugs in jail are easier to get than outside?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when I was there, I could not see a means of entrance. You walk in, they shower you, throw you in a gown, and throw you in a cell. Where are you carrying anything into the jail?
Right.
It's the guards.
Yeah.
So the guards bring it in. And you were saying they would bring it in through the kitchen.
Through the kitchen.
And see, the thing that's important with the kitchen is, if you remember, we had that cook at Belmont. They got caught with $67,000 worth of heroin. What do you think he was making? The prisoners. So, in that, so the commonality to all the prisoners is food.
Yes.
So the guards are using the kitchen.
Right.
And they're putting literally the drug orders in the food.
Right.
So the guards themselves don't actually take the money from the prisoners.
Right.
But
they don't even touch the drugs themselves.
Right. So the people, the prisoners that they trust, mostly predators, big tough guys.
Yeah.
So they work the kitchen and they deliver the drugs to the stalls.
Yes.
See, that's exactly what. Now understand this. These are young people that are struggling at the worst time in their lives. They're in there because of this addiction, and they're feeding the addiction. And it's the prison guards that are profiting by it. And they're using these predators to deliver the drugs.
And force the payment.
There you go. That's what I wanted to talk about, too. Because when I was there, too, my last day, they sent a couple of guys over to see me, threatened to rape me and beat me up, the whole thing. You had warned me that those were the guys that beat and raped you.
Yes.
Listen, assholes, I told you I'm coming back. I'm coming back for those two individuals. But, so in other words, that's the enforcement. That's the payment. So the same people that are delivering it to you in the cell, if you don't pay, what happens?
They'll come in, they'll beat you up, they'll rape you if they want, and they'll say you're going to pay or else your life's going to be hell. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to fuck up your food. You're not going to eat.
They have an absolute payment. But it goes worse than that. Meaning, you've got to call your parents to pay the guards.
Pretty much, yeah.
So we've got the parents of these children. They're holding their children hostage because they'll beat and kill you if you don't pay.
Right.
So in other words, you have your parents of these people paying the guards. I mean, I do not know anything that's more obscene than this. And it goes beyond because it keeps going on. And so when young people are getting out of there, they're still addicted to heroin.
Or dead because there's people dying in there of overdoses.
Have you been seeing? So, for instance, I bring it out. I bring it out on the radio stations. I put it out that young people are dying in jail. You see it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see it, and you've seen them die of drug overdoses. Yeah. How do the guards handle it? They try to cover it up, or
they do try to cover it up. Yeah, because this one kid that was on our block, he died. I guess he had a syringe or something, and he shot up the heroin.
Yeah.
And he turned blue and everything, and he tried telling the guard, and he's like, "No, just keep him. Just make sure he's still breathing or whatever, and try to keep him awake. Keep smacking him and stuff once in a while. And if he stops breathing or whatever, just cover him up."
Because they die all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was a young man in Nashua prison that died. They would give the information. Then we find out that it was heroin shooting up in jail. And then I see, and it's those threats and those guys coming into the thing. I am telling, and Jay witnessed the second day I was there. You remember it was late at night, maybe into the morning.
Yeah.
You heard me screaming, asking for help.
Yes, because I was right. Our cells were connected, interconnected.
Yeah. So you heard me asking for help.
Right.
And you heard them saying, shut up and just lay there.
Yeah, just stay there, lay there, calm down.
Right. Calm down. And, you ready? When they finally did come in and took my pressure, I was 70 points lower than I was that afternoon. My hands were blue, my feet were blue. These bastards tried to kill me. That's exactly what they tried to do. Do you remember I didn't eat the rest of the time?
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Fasting.
Well, what I would do is I would sink the milk and the juice to make sure it wasn't leaking, and I lived on that for the rest of the 8.5 days.
Jeez.
Right.
They
didn't let me out of the stall one time.
No.
No phone calls, no nothing.
I know.
But you did hear me threaten them all, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm coming back.
And I mean it. I am coming back. Thank you. You're going to help a lot of people, and I need more brave people to come forwards and tell their story.
Yeah. It needs to get out there.
One last thing. For Officer Valencia, my understanding is they got a little nervous once I left.
Oh, yeah.
They had a lot of guards talking.
A lot of talk, a lot of chatter going on.
A little harder to get drugs in there for a little while.
Yeah.
And turns out that they moved Valencia.
Yep, it did.
All right. Well, now we're going to get back to rest. We made a promise. We're going to make a promise. I am going back. We are going to clean this up. And they're not going to kill our children. Mike Gill, State of Corruption.